Good evening again, my friends. Today, I want to continue to share out of Genesis chapter 17. And I know I'm skipping a lot, but I feel like I just want to touch base on things that I don't really hear too many people talk about or point out. Genesis 17, verses 12 through 13 and 14. And it says, "And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of your seed. He that is born in your house, and he that is bought with your money, must be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man child whose flesh or of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant." And I think it's very important to note here that so many people are so adamant about the Jewish tradition and the lineage of the Jews going back to Abraham. Because even the Jews, whenever Jesus would say, they would say, "We have Abraham as our father." And Jesus said, God is able to raise up children of Abraham from these stones, okay? So having Abraham as a father was not what was important. Being a child of Abraham, according to Romans, was being a child of faith. If you have faith in God, you are a child of Abraham. And I think that this right here proves the insignificance of being of the bloodline of Abraham. Because I'll just point it out right here. It says, "Every man child in your house, even those that are not born of your seed, anyone in your house that is either your child or your servants' children or your servants or anyone that you bought that was bought with money must be circumcised." So every person in Abraham's household, which there was many people in his household, obviously we know there was at least 300 because they went to war against the king of Sodom and Gomorrah, or not against him, but against the people that kidnapped Lot when he was in Sodom and Gomorrah. So there was at least 300 that we know of, and they were all circumcised. And these were all not people of Abraham's flesh, right? So these people were all circumcised and brought into the same covenant as Abraham. Okay, because circumcision was the sign of the covenant. "My covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant." This is an everlasting covenant because the covenant which is in our flesh is the circumcision of our heart, removing our heart of stone, removing the foreskin of our heart, and leaving a heart of flesh before God. This is the covenant that's everlasting. Obviously, Paul says in Galatians that circumcision avails nothing in the flesh. Okay? So when God says this is an everlasting covenant, we should know, okay, well, if Paul says this, and I trust what Paul says, that circumcision is not important anymore because it's a spiritual application that has to be applied. It's a spiritual thing where God is circumcising our hearts. And if a man is uncircumcised, not because he still has the foreskin on his penis, no, if he's uncircumcised in his heart, he will be cut off, and he's broken the covenant. And it even goes on to say that all the men of his house, born in his house and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. And it even says that even strangers were circumcised with him. That's what it's saying. All the strangers and all the men of his house, they were all circumcised. Okay? So I think that's important to note, and it should just encourage us as who are Gentiles, or really we're not Gentiles, because once you put your faith in Jesus Christ, you become a child of Abraham. And when God circumcises your heart, you become a Jew spiritually, which we've talked about before. Romans 2:28 and 29. A Jew is not a Jew who is so outwardly, and circumcision's not in the flesh, in the flesh, but of the spirit. A Jew is a Jew who is so inwardly, who has a circumcised heart. Okay, so just wanted to point that out, and continue to see how God has revealed himself even from the very beginning, and being able to apply these things spiritually and not get so caught up in the carnal things, which really just brings division, um, and hatred, honestly. Amen.